So I don't know. No matter what time I go to bed, that clock is gonna wake me up no later than 6 o'clock. But I got up at 5:45. But most of the time, if I go, it'll be 6 o'clock. But I had to make myself go back to sleep, y'all, because I was tired. Oh my goodness, after being on live with Angie for that long. But look, so as soon as I get up, stuff be bothering my brain. Like I gotta figure out how to sift and pick through the information, right? So I told y'all, so I some of the preliminary hearings, the motion, the motion hearings dealing with the motions, and I mean not preliminary. I'm sorry, pre-trial hearings. For Keefe D, I missed some of the details, right? And so this morning while I'm sitting there, because y'all know, like I said, it was a busy week last week. I got to work, do regular life in the midst of me doing everything. Excuse me. And then y'all know I had did like circus coverage. So when I came to come do the Keefe D live I did yesterday earlier, it's some things that I didn't have a chance to look into before I went live with that. But I knew that Corey Edwards is the key, right, to how they believe they're going to tie Keefe into this murder. Now, listen, y'all. I'm not saying I don't know what the constitutional violations or whatever that might be. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of a juror, looking at the evidence that's being laid out. Of course, if it is some other kind of technical issue that gets Keefe out of this situation, I won't be surprised. This is a very old case. It's probably all kinds of things that can be brought up with an experienced attorney. And so I wouldn't put it past them. Like I said, also I'm looking at the fact that you have this at least this one juror on there that was obviously at least tainted. Because I'm gonna use the word that those people who are ultrally pro defense, despite what people want to think, I can see the when I'm looking at cases, I could look at it down the middle, and I could say, okay, I believe that there's issues with the prosecution case. I don't think they're meeting their burden of proof or proving the case. And I've done that on several cases where I can see that. But it just so happens that on some of the cases that I have reviewed recently that I don't see it that way because I'm following the evidence. I'm not really like, I guess if a constitutional issue does come up that the judge ends up having to deal with, and then his attorney does ask for some type of directive verdict or something like that, and it gets thrown up, I understand that. But if I'm looking at it based off of what's being presented as evidence by the attorney, I mean by the attorneys in court, and I'm looking at it like I'm would be a juror sitting in that jury box, then these are what my conclusions would be based on how the evidence is coming out in the case. So that's basically why I say that I can say, okay, I think there might be some issues where he would end up getting off for this. One being that juror, it might be more than one, but we know at least it's one that has been following social media content and may believe some of those theories that they seen through social media content, and they're bringing that in that jury box to them coming into that court, which I find funny that people praise that because they don't praise it when they feel like it's happening on the other side. They want it called out, and they want it exposed, and they want the jury, like, it to be an issue disqualified, for it to be a renewed trial and all of these different things. But the prosecution only gets one stab. So when you have a tainted juror that's in the favor of the opposite direction, that's it. That's it. That's all that it is. And so I find that funny, but that kind of like shows you how people are. It's not really about justice. I think for me, I look at it as being about justice. So I'm looking at it. I wouldn't deny that he wouldn't be able to get an appeal if some type of constitutional violation occurs. I wouldn't be surprised if a judge did come back on a directive verdict and say it's no way for the jury to be able to come to some conclusion. Other than like based off of the evidence, how all the evidence is. But I'm trying to just assess what's being presented, the facts that are being presented in the case if I'm a juror, because all of those technical decisions are going to be made by somebody else. They're not going to really be made by me as a juror unless the constitutional error is brought in front of me as the juror, right? And I don't know that they've like presented. I haven't seen Keefe D's attorney present anything to suggest that to the jury. So, like I said, I won't be surprised if it's some other ways, but I knew based on how this evidence is leading up to that, I'm like, okay, Corey Edwards is key to how they're going to tie Keefe D into that murder. And the way that Keefe D kept on trying to find out from those detectives what Corey Edwards told them, if he told them anything, how he told it to him, when he told it to him, what he said to him. Keefe D could not stop talking about Corey Edwards through that whole 2008 interview, which to me, because okay, I'm looking at myself like I'm a juror in the jury box, right? But I'm able to look at other information, because I'm not a juror in the jury box. So that means I can go research to see, okay, is the way that I think that this is going, am I right? Right? Am I right about where I think this is going? And y'all, I posted 2 videos this morning where it was Law and Crime TV. Well, it was Choke No Joke one, and then I think one of them was Law and Crime TV. But both of them came from Law and Crime TV. And it came because this was in a pretrial hearing, one of the pretrial hearings. And they were discussing Corey Edwards. It's confirmed that Corey Edwards gave a statement to the feds in 2006 about the individuals that were in the vehicle and did the shooting the night of the Tupac murder. That is confirmed. So 2 years before Keefe D is arrested for, or potentially facing being arrested for that drug charge, right? They had already formulated, they had completed the investigation on the drug operations thing that they set up, and they headed to where Keefe was going to be sent to jail for life this time. Y'all remember in the 98 one, he was only facing 10 years, right? It could have probably been a little more than that based on whatever crimes he might have committed, but he was only facing 10 years in that one, approximately. But in the 2008 drug bust that they did, the sting operation that they set up, he was facing the rest of his life in jail from that. So when they went to go talk to him, like I said, they went to go talk with him with the intent of getting information on the Biggie murder. It wasn't really about Tupac. They weren't anticipating that he was going to give them anything in relation to the Tupac Shakur case. But they had already been told in 2006 by Corey Edwards about the murder. And Keefe being in the car that night, placing him there, and all of that, right? They didn't move on it. They didn't move on what Corey Edwards said. I don't know why. I don't know if we're going to find out why they didn't, right? So, in 2006, Corey gives their statement. Then, so they do this thing in 2008. Keefe D ends up giving this statement because of the drugs thing. And then in the 2009 interview that we hear repeatedly, Keefe D is pissed and upset with Corey Edwards. I knew he was ratting. I knew he was telling. I knew he was such. I know he told y'all such and such and such. Well, even if that was the case and he knew that Corey told them anything, if what Corey told them wasn't true, why would that even be a thing? He would be different. He would be discussing it different. He would be saying he lied to y'all. He wouldn't be saying he ratted to y'all. He would be saying Corey lied to y'all. That's not what happened. That it didn't go down like that. Like it would be other ways that Keefe D would speak about this particular situation. But here's another thing that is letting me know that Corey's story is corroborated according to what Keefe is saying. Now, I don't know. We may never know what the grandest scheme was about this, the Tupac unaliving, right? We may never know the grandest scheme, but I think that I am certain in my constitution that Keefe D was in the car that night, that Keefe D facilitated and I guess providing a firearm, as he said, and that it was like Bob James said, something needed to be done, and I don't know for what reason. Was it because Baby Lane, or was it because of a gang, some other type of gang war going on? Or was it because there was a grander scheme that involved these record labels? I don't know what the reason was. But as far as the shooting is concerned, I am now convinced that Keefe D, like I said, did was in the car, in the vehicle, and that indictment, based on that indictment, a jury could indict him. I mean, could convict him. Okay, I believe there's the video, the second video I posted is they are discussing how Corey Edwards needed to be moved by the feds. He is in some type of witness protection, I guess, right? Because he needed to be moved by the feds because I don't know if somebody like found out the location or what, but there was some type of attempt on Corey to kill Corey Edwards. I don't know from where. We don't know from where. We can't say that it was necessarily Keefe. I don't know. Because if it is some type of bigger grand conspiracy, and if Bad Boy Records did have something to do with this, or Suge Knight, or anybody, the LAPD, or anybody had something to do with this, right? And they know that Corey Edwards can play Keefe D at the scene, and they know how Keefe D has diarrhea in the mouth, and maybe they got some type of agreement that Keefe D is going to hold out, but they need to get rid of Corey in order to, I guess, like put the dent in Keefe's case. So then there's no witness. Then I guess you would, that might be what the move was. I don't know. I don't know if we can't look at this alleged allegation by the prosecution that there was an attempt made on Corey Edwards' life, and this is why the feds had to move him, right? We can't look at it that it directly came from Keefe D. Maybe it came from whoever was at the top of this. But for whatever reason, they want Corey gone so that he cannot testify against Keefe D. Because him testifying against Keefe D would lead to bigger fish, right? So it's a possibility that it could be Keefe D that they are saying put this attack on Corey Edwards' life. It could be somebody else bigger behind Keefe D. We don't know, right? We don't know what it is. But we know that the feds had to move Corey Edwards because of this thing. And we know that we have been hearing throughout the pre-trial phase in this case that there have been threats made towards witnesses. Now, we found this out before. I just didn't know it. I wasn't paying attention. But it's already documented that Corey Edwards is one of those individuals that threats were made on his life. And that's why I'm saying this case is going to hinge on, I'm sure there's many more witnesses to corroborate some of the evidence that they may have, whether it be physical evidence or testimony as evidence, or whatever it is that they're going to use. They say that there's 200 witnesses on the witness list. I will not be shocked and surprised if all 200 of them end up on the stand in this case. I won't, with the way that this is going. Now, I don't know how that will tire out the jury, doing something like that, not getting straight to the point and doing something like that. We saw NYSL what that did, right? But so that might not be necessarily a good strategy. That might work in Keefe D's favor by them doing that. But I think by the time we get down to it, however they're going to piece this together, Corey Edwards being there that night, right, in Vegas, the night of the Pac murder, him being a suspect at the time of the Pac murder, him being a gang member of the Southside Crips, cool, good with Keefe, he's around all of the people who he says was in the car the night of the murder. And then Keefe in the interview, the 2008 interview, confirms that they did not want to tell Corey because they already suspected that Corey was a snitch. So they tried to keep from telling him about the what happened that night. Now, this is what Keefe is saying now. There's one version of the story where I guess it was said that they told Corey Edwards that they did it. Somebody told him. I don't know if it was Big Dre or whoever, but somebody, there's a couple of versions out here that somebody actually did tell Corey Edwards, right? But Keefe is saying he didn't do it. And the reason why was because they suspected that Corey was a snitch. And then at some point, Corey, they all know that Corey knows about it. And then Keefe says, and then Corey starts running off his mouth about it. Keefe is acknowledging this all in that 2009 proffer when he's in there with Greg Caden. Now we know, or but we could have known before, but I didn't know before. I just searched it out this morning. But now we have identified that through the pretrial phase that Corey Edwards gave a statement in 2006. I don't know under what circumstance, whether he was being picked up for something else, whether it was voluntary because he was talking to them about something else that he was cooperating with them on. I don't know why. I think we're going to find that out, right? But Corey Edwards gives this statement in 2006. And then when Keefe is arrested, and there's conversations that Corey Edwards needs to be moved because there was a threat on his life. To me, it is confirmation that Keefe knows. Keefe knows that some of this case is largely hinged on that 2006 statement that Corey Edwards made, and whatever he said in that statement, and whatever it is that Corey Edwards knows about what happened that night. That is where we should be focusing and looking towards as we're listening to the testimony, as we're listening to the other witnesses testify. We want to pay close attention to what they are saying to see how Corey comes to testify when he gets on the stand. Because this witness, I would guess to say, unless Suge Knight has a change of heart and decides that he's going to testify, Corey Edwards would be the star witness of this case. And it is the reason why whoever was making these threats on the lives of some of the witnesses had Corey Edwards on the roster. Corey Edwards was on the roster to get rid of because they know that his testimony can be corroborated by some other things, and mainly one of the things being Keefe D's 2009 proffer agreement where he cannot stop talking about Corey Edwards. On that, you guys, I'm done. I just wanted to come and throw that up in there real quick. I don't know at what point, because we have no idea when witnesses will be coming to the stand. So I don't know at what point they will be bringing Corey on and bringing him in. I don't know whether he's going to be a cooperating witness or whether there's going to be some resistance, some hostility, whether they're going to have to treat him like a hostile witness. I don't know what the nature of his testimony is going to look like, but it is clear that based on his 2006 statement of whatever he told them, and then the fact that Keefe could not stop mentioning him during that proffer, that there is some connection that they want to use Corey as the star witness to placing Keefe D at the murder scene, being with those people who committed the murder the night that Tupac Shakur was unalive. On that, I'll talk to you guys soon. Y'all